Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom takes place approximately 3 years after the first Jurassic World movie, which involved the shutdown of the Jurassic World Park, and follows Owen and Claire, our two main stars from that movie. And in this one, they've been hired by a businessman who had a past relationship with John Hammond, the original creator of Jurassic Park. And what he wants them to do is go to Isla Nublar and rescue as many dinosaurs as possible, because the dormant volcano that's on the center of the island has recently become active, and the dinosaurs will actually soon be extinct once again. But of course, in these kind of movies, there are groups of people who don't want that to happen, as well as people who are like, yes, this is God's way, this should automatically happen. Now, I am going to get a little bit more into the plot, and the reason why is because, for those of you who don't know my opinion on spoilers, my view is that once they become part of the marketing campaign, then it's no longer a spoiler, because it's out there for people to see before the movie even came out. And quite a bit of this movie was spoiled thanks to the second trailer. And so I will be getting into that now. So you guys have been warned. If you would rather watch the movie first before watching this part, because there will be quite a bit of spoilers involving mostly the second half of the movie, go ahead, pause this video, add it to the watch later list, and then just come back later. But right after this next cut, I will start talking a little bit of spoilers. So once our rescuers get to the island and they start rescuing a couple of the dinosaurs, the movie does this transition where their employers are actually revealed that they're really trying to take the dinosaurs back to the States in order to sell them on the black market, basically. And on top of that, they also want to make another dinosaur hybrid. So once all that happens, the movie changes from Adventure on Dinosaur Island rescue operation to a monster movie that is set in a very big house. And again, if you've seen the second trailer to Fallen Kingdom, then you already know the vast majority of the movie. And now that that part's out of the way, let's get into the part of the review that I enjoy the most. The reason why I get out of bed in the morning, which is my pro and con list, starting with the pros. The parts that I enjoyed the most about this movie were the first and third acts. The first act took place, as I said, on Isla Nublar, the site of Jurassic World, and the teaser trailer actually made me a bit worried about that part of the film, but there were actually some very beautiful looking scenes as well as some very emotional moments, and that was really the part of the movie that got me hooked as far as where everything was really gonna go. And then of course the third act became that sort of monster movie in a larger house, which was fun overall. The direction by J.A. Bayona alone is better than Colin Trevorrow's direction of the first Jurassic World movie, which his direction wasn't bad, it was actually pretty good. I just think that J.A. Bayona is obviously a better director than Colin Trevorrow. And I say this especially for the third act of this movie because Bayona has had experience with horror. He directed a horror film called The Orphanage, which is an excellently directed film, especially for a horror film. And his inclusion in the film was really what drew me back in the first place to this sequel of a franchise that I actually felt was going downhill. Chris Pratt's Owen Grady is still a very likable character, but then again, really what do you expect from Chris Pratt? He always delivers. And I know that, that's all I'm going to say about the character for right now. I know that it's not much, but I'm actually going to save some parts for another point that I'm actually going to make in a little bit. Claire, once again, is reprised by Bryce Dallas Howard, and her character is much better in this film than she was in the first, where she was kind of annoying. And Claire has, without a doubt, the best character development and character arc in this film. And I'm talking about, for character development, I'm talking about obvious character development in between the two films, on top of the development that she had in and throughout the entire film. And really, every time she was on screen, I was smiling, because just Bryce Dallas Howard is one of those people who I don't believe gets enough attention, and really she's just, I don't know, she's got this kind of bubbly personality that comes out every once in a while in her performances that you can tell is her, and she just feels real. There were actual moral dilemmas in this film that were kind of on par with the ones in the original film Jurassic Park. And in this one, it's specifically centered on whether humans should actually let these dinosaurs die off when it seems that this destructive event that seems to have been created by God is intending to wipe them out once again, or, you know, should humans still try to save them? You know, as well as the conversation of how dinosaurs are not monsters. They're just animals with instincts, just like any other animal that we have coexisting with us in our world today. And sure, some of those scenes don't work out completely, but I do appreciate that the effort was made, especially on the part where, you know, should dinosaurs die off? Because it is kind of weird. Like, not looking into the fact that this is a movie, but, like, let's say that situation was actually happening in our world. The dinosaurs had been wiped out millions of years beforehand, and now there's another extinction level event for that particular group. Honestly, I'm personally not, I do believe in a sort of all-seeing power, but, like, not specifically. I'm, like, open to the idea that there is a God, but also open to the idea that really we weren't really created by anything. It was just a random circumstance. And that kind of situation would actually make me sit back and think, maybe there is a God, and he actually is doing this for a reason. CGI in this film is pretty outstanding. I mean, they did some really great things with the dinosaurs, especially when you compare it to Jurassic World, because that movie is just CGI heavy, and there are even points where you recognize that it is CGI, but the CGI in this is definitely a lot better, and they even did some scenes with a couple of definitely animatronic dinosaurs that I really appreciated, because they did that even back to the original Jurassic Park film, and I really appreciate when a movie doesn't rely too much on visual effects, especially computer-generated effects, and they try to put effort into practical effects. I really appreciate when a movie does that. All of that being said, this is where we get into my least favorite thing, which is the cons section, where I talk about everything that I did not like. And you guys are going to need to sit down for a while. This is going to take a bit. Back on the topic of Owen Grady, while he's still a fun character, he had absolutely no character development, whether it was in between the two films or from the start to the end of Fallen Kingdom, which was the opposite of Claire's character. The villain of the story is another basic, simple, one-dimensional, and cliché corporate bad guy who just looks at a situation and sees dollar signs no matter where he looks, and I'm sick and tired of that cliché just popping up out of nowhere, and it's just lazy writing in my opinion, which is a phrase that I will probably say at least a couple more times in this review. The supporting characters are pointless. They do give one girl who is a veterinarian who specializes in dinosaurs a little something to do, but overall she's pointless and actually could have been changed to someone in the script. She could have been changed to somebody who was on the wrong side, but also just happened to really care about dinosaurs. You know, she like wasn't in it for evil reasons, she just happened to be on the wrong side. And they could have saved a bit of time on that side. But there's one character, one who I absolutely hate because, again, lazy writing. He is a cliche that needs to stop, that needs to die off, needs to become extinct, pardon the pun. His name is Franklin Webb, a programmer who works with Claire. His job while they're on the island is to boot up the systems, or boot back up the systems on the island. And other than just doing that, he is the cliche nerd who is afraid of everything and won't stop screaming. He's this character that's always used for comic relief. And in most films, especially this one, you really don't need that. And I say especially because this movie has Chris Pratt, a really funny guy. He has showed multiple times that he is really funny, and you do not need this kind of dumbass in your film. No thank you. In my pro list, I mentioned that I enjoyed the first and third acts. Well, the second act is where it transitions from that rescue mission to monster movie, and the story just slams on the brakes for this entire act, just so that we get a bit more insight into the corporate greed story point, one of the more weak parts of the narrative. There are way too many callbacks, or scratch that. there are way too many callbacks to the original Jurassic Park movies, primarily the first one, where there are sequences and shots that are completely ripped off from that set of films, some of which have been showcased in the trailers, like main characters about to be attacked, only to have a T-Rex save them and then give that iconic roar when it triumphs. And speaking of callbacks, there are actually some plot points from The Lost World that are just recycled into this film, which is stupid because Colin Trevorrow, who is helming this new franchise within a franchise, has mentioned before that while he is not taking the 2 Jurassic Park sequels out of canon, he's simply not going to acknowledge them at all. And I can see why now, because it's so that they can take some of those plot points from those 2 movies, if they want, and reuse them, recycle them in this movie, you know, and use them as their own, as well as not use some locales from those movies to push a narrative that makes no sense, especially if you're familiar with the Jurassic Park mythos and canon, which I will bring up again in another point. And speaking of Colin Trevorrow, not only did he direct the first film, he also co-wrote it with Derek Connolly, and they both returned as writers for this movie, and I am really not happy about that. While there were some interesting things in Jurassic World, I would argue that that most of the issues involved the script itself. And Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom shows that they did not learn anything from that first movie. They must have thought, oh, the first movie went on to become one of the highest grossing movies ever, still holding that position to this day. So we don't need to improve anything. All of those people will come back for the sequel and will definitely come back for repeat viewings, just like everybody else did for the first movie. Nothing was learned from the first film and its drawbacks. And instead of focusing on the things that actually did make the first Jurassic World fun, they put more emphasis on the things and aspects that audiences and critics didn't enjoy very much. Like that whole military application for dinosaurs angle, that whole stupid thing. Yeah, because that happens in real life. No, our military does not look to nature to make weapons like that. Okay, in the past, definitely, but not like animals. Sure, we use dogs, but that's different. We don't train lions, bears, and sharks to kill our enemies. So why the hell are they treating it like... Why is this something that everyone in this world, and this world being the Jurassic Park universe, Jurassic World trilogy, whatever the hell you want to call it, why is everybody focusing on military application for dinosaurs? It's freaking stupid. I'm trying to lessen how much I swear in these videos because I feel like it has gone a little bit too far, but movies like this make it really hard. And going off of that last con, but also to break off into another one, they recycled another part of Jurassic World. They made another hybrid, and I don't know why. I mean, many people didn't even care about the Indominus Rex. I'm one of the few people who actually did. I found it interesting that she could do all these things like mask her body temperature. She could camouflage and even communicate with raptors. I did think that that was kind of interesting. But I understand that a lot of people didn't care for that. So it's like, I'm not asking for it to come back. And also, I don't like when movies in a series basically recycle the same things over and over again. And this new one is supposedly supposed to be able to do all the things that that one could do, but also obey human commands. And there was potential with that. But the fact that we've seen something like this already, and just like in the last film, I don't know, it's like they just want to keep going back to stuff that they're interested in, and they don't seem to care what everybody else thinks, and they don't seem like they're going to change course, even if it means that audiences and critics potentially don't like it this time either. There's a reveal during the third act that surprisingly wasn't in the marketing. I'm surprised that they didn't fuck up on that. Sorry. It had the potential to bring about a bit of a philosophical, thought-provoking debate between characters, which is something that I love. I loved, like, my absolute favorite scene in Jurassic Park doesn't even have to do with dinosaurs. It's the scene where they're all at the dinner table and they're discussing you know, what were the pros and cons of making the dinosaurs, and also, should we have actually done this? That's one of my favorite scenes, and I love whenever characters get into these kind of debates, but the whole situation is only mentioned or talked about for approximately 13 minutes throughout the rest of the film, including when the reveal happens. Jeff Goldblum returns as Ian Malcolm, arguably in the top 3 of Jurassic Park franchise characters. Definitely my favorite character, and seeing him did make me feel good, but he had little to no use to the plot. He's just in these 2 scenes that center around a courtroom discussion on should we let the dinosaurs live or die, when it seems that God is preferring the latter option, like I mentioned earlier. And it's so disconnected from the rest of the film that it felt like it was there just to show that there's some connection to the original films, as well as setting up for what writers wanted to be a new iconic line, which, let's be honest, it's not going to be. It's very lazy writing. There is little to no guts and gore, despite the fact that this movie has a PG-13 rating, which would have welcomed a little blood and gore, and the fact that the Jurassic Park trilogy has shown itself to be welcome to scary imagery and things involving human beings being eaten alive just makes this movie come across as tame. I mean, like, at the end of the movie, I thought about this, and I just kept thinking back to the first Jurassic Park movie, where Ellie Sattler is in the electrical room, and all of a sudden, an arm falls on her hand, and she's like, oh, I recognize that hand, that's Samuel L. Jackson's character, and she's like, oh my god, thank you, and then she turns around, and it's a fucking severed arm, and just, there's nothing even remotely close to that in Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, whatever. It's not in Fallen Kingdom. Nothing even remotely close. Very short con, just getting it out of the way. I should have talked about it earlier, but basically, there's no memorable or remarkable scenes throughout this movie. There are very potential continuity errors in Jurassic Park canon thanks to this film, namely mentions of past characters that really make you hate those characters that you initially loved, because they mention choices that they made that makes them come across as dicks, and as well as the fact that they're ignoring Jurassic World: The Lost World, and as well as Jurassic Park 3, in order to push a narrative that makes no sense, especially, again, if you're familiar with canon and the fact that there was at one time another island, Isla Sorna, where all the dinosaurs did live before they were moved to Isla Nublar. I didn't even say it, god damn it. And for my last con, there was a setup for a very big choice in the film with two really big options that's presented to one of our characters. And that character decides to make a decision that I thought was very risky for a film franchise, but that I really appreciated because I wasn't expecting it at all. But then another character decides to actually make the other decision, bringing about a predictable sequence of events and basically ignoring the character development that the other character had. And why did the writers choose to do it this way? So that they could make Jurassic World 3, which will be directed by Colin Trevorrow. I can't say his name today. And after seeing this movie, I'm not looking forward to the sequel. And those were all of my thoughts on Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. Now, don't misunderstand the long-ass list of negatives that I had with this movie. I did not hate this movie. If I were to have a rating system that referred to my feelings on a movie, it would either be somewhere in the middle, like I would call it half and half, where, you know, I could live with or without it, or it would be just under, on the line of, I would either call it minor disappointment or minor dislike, somewhere around there. It's still a decent movie. It's well done on a technical and directing level, but what drags it down is the overall script and the writing. And I do think that most people will have fun with this, especially because it is made to be a fun summer blockbuster with dinosaurs. So I definitely suggest going out to see it, especially if that's what you're looking for. However, I do not recommend this movie for anybody who wants something more than just a fun summer blockbuster with dinosaurs. And in my personal opinion, like I said earlier, I was worried that this franchise was going downhill, This franchise, in my opinion, really is going downhill at this point, and it will take a miracle to bring it back up. And that's where I will end this review. If you enjoyed the video, please do not hesitate to hit that like button, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so that you can keep up to date with everything that's happening on the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and farewell until the next video.